Hello, I'm Peg Bolgioni, Communication Specialist with Rutland Regional Medical Center, and I'd like to welcome you to Window on Wellness. During our program, I'll be speaking with Sarah Cosgrove, Tobacco Prevention Specialist and Respiratory Therapist with the Community Health Team. Sarah will be discussing tobacco cessation programs at Rutland Regional Medical Center, as well as the controversy around vaping and e-cigarettes. I will be back after this message from Rutland Regional Medical Center.
Welcome to Rutland Regional Medical Center. We are Vermont's largest community hospital with 37 specialty clinics. Healthcare organizations have always fixed people once they're broken, but at Rutland Regional Medical Center, we do more. We provide nutrition counseling, weight loss help, smoking cessation classes, all the things that help the community and individuals stay healthy. And we do it all with this promise: to listen, to respect, and to care, always.
Welcome back to Window on Wellness. I'm pleased to have as my guest today Sarah Cosgrove, a tobacco treatment specialist and respiratory therapist with Rutland Regional Medical Center. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I think we'll get right to it. I know that you are very involved with the tobacco cessation program at Rutland Regional, so why don't you kind of start with an overview?
Okay, well, my name's Sarah Cosgrove. I'm a tobacco treatment specialist. And at the hospital, I'm part of the community health team. So our goal is really to go out and work within the community and address the needs that are out there. And we know that this community definitely has been impacted by tobacco use. We have one of the highest rates in the state. So really our job was, to take that challenge on and see how we can meet the needs of the community. So what we do here is we offer groups. And we have weekly ongoing groups. We always have a Monday group, which is now 5 to 6 o'clock at Rutland Regional Medical Center. We have an amazing group on Tuesday at the Castleton Community Center, which is 5 to 6 o'clock, and also a fantastic group on Tuesdays from 11 to 12 at our Heart Center. Mm-hmm. We do groups out in the community as well, so we offer 4-week groups as well at work sites or organizations that have people there that are either participants or employees that smoke. And we're really out there to spread the word, but to also train people to work with people that have tobacco disorder or tobacco use.
Now, I know that you have the type of group situation where folks can drop in.
Yes.
They don't have to go for like 8 weeks or 10 weeks, or they can go. They can come
go
in
as much as they need. So our ongoing groups, people can drop in at any point. I'm a former smoker. I get it that when you're ready to quit, you can't wait for that next 4-week class to come along. You're ready. Jump while it's hot. So the groups are there to come in. If you feel the need, like you're thinking about it. Come on in, check it out. There's no commitment. And I can tell you that the people that come in, they stick around because we're there to give that support and to work on the skills. And that's the most important thing, is the skills to quit. What do you do when you're having a craving? What helps with the cravings? How do you identify positive sources of support? Because not everyone has a support system around them to help them quit smoking. And by participating in these classes, we can give free nicotine replacement products, which are the patch gum and lozenge. And those help out so much, especially with those withdrawal symptoms those first few days. So we connect people to resources. We also have a phone quit line, which is for people that can't make it into the groups or they're really not comfortable with groups, that they call up the 1-800-QUIT-NOW number, and they can get counseling at a time that's convenient for them. Say it's 8:30 on a Friday. They can have someone call them up at 8:30 on a Friday and do that counseling with them. So we have a lot of resources out there. It's just a matter of figuring out what's right for the individual in front of us.
Right. Now, I guess over time, has attendance increased? Has it decreased? How has that been going?
Well, right now, I think we've hit a point of plateauing out. While the groups are much smaller and more comfortable in size than they were 2-3 years ago. I mean, there were times where we had standing room only, where we had 20 people in the Monday night group. Mm-hmm. That has dwindled down. But the work we're doing in the community, that's to be expected. We're training more people right in the primary care offices to meet those needs. We're training people within, community organizations to be able to work and address those needs there rather than sending everyone up to the group. Mm-hmm. And we're also working within the hospital to really build up the skill set and the conversations being had in the hospital while people are still patients, to make sure that they can stay quit when they leave, to maintain that quit. Because people always say, yeah, I stayed tobacco-free while I was in the hospital, but it was when I was leaving that I lit up that cigarette. So we're really trying to make sure that people have those resources before they leave the hospital. Yeah. So really, I guess we're spreading the seed right now, trying to get more people involved in the treatment, which is cutting down on the group size, which isn't a bad thing.
Right. So do you think that you're going to change your delivery model, maybe over time, you know, in terms of just trying to get more people involved in the programs?
Oh, yeah. Change is not a bad thing.
No, it's not. Do you have any idea of what that might look like at this point?
I'll tell you my goals.
Okay. Okay.
So our goals is really to get out in those outlying communities. And like Killington, we're really trying to get out into Killington to drive people to the groups, working with libraries as a location. And the outliers, because Castleton, we've been working on Castleton for a few years, working with the community center, and we have a beautiful, robust group out there right now. A lovely, lovely group that meets Tuesdays from 5 to 6 o'clock. I'm going to plug every chance I get.
No, that's fine.
And, you know, the goal is to really get a group going out in Wallingford, to get a group going out in Killington, Brandon. So how do we get these groups going in these outlying communities where people don't have to come into Rutland, and somewhere that they feel comfortable? So that's really trying to find those partnerships to help identify those people out there and to have a location where they're comfortable.
Do you think it'll ever come, and I know we've had this conversation, do you think it will ever come to folks doing this online? Is that even going to be beneficial for them? Or do they need that group support?
Well, I think there's a lot of potential out there with doing the groups virtually through the internet and such. There is a lot to be said about that support, though, and it's kind of funny because people are like, I'm not a group person, and then they come in and they realize it's not like, you know, you're sitting there, you're getting information, but it's an open conversation, and the people around you are going through it. So it's good to be surrounded by people while you're going through this. It helps normalize what you're feeling. You know, withdrawal symptoms are normal. How do you get through those? And I've been tobacco-free for like 15 years now, so I'm not living it day to day, but guess what? The person next to you is. So it's those conversations, and it's having the new people new to a quit coming in with the people that have already established a quit and realizing, you know, they were there once. They've made it. I can do this too. And it's a confidence building.
Well, and I think too in our society, I know a lot of companies are adopting non-smoking policies. So I'm sure that's making it even more increasingly difficult for folks who are trying to quit because they can't smoke at work and there's no designated smoking areas. So do you see an uptick, you know, with folks that might be joining programs because of that issue?
Yeah. So I see it the other way around. That's a positive for a smoker when someone goes tobacco-free because it's reinforcing that is not a healthy habit. And being able to bring in resources to support people, but you'll start realizing that the longer a person can go without a cigarette, the more confident they are that they can get through this. And by not having people smoke right there on campus, you are, first of all, protecting the people that don't smoke, but you're sending that message that I care about your health. I don't want you doing this here. Here are the resources. I've yet to see a place go tobacco-free where resources, you know, they didn't put thought into it and that resources are available. So we're always there to help. I know the Community College of Vermont is going tobacco-free right now, so they called us in just as that peripheral support. You know, what do we need to do? What resources are out there? We've been sitting there at lunchtime the past few days just to be like, in case anyone needs help. So when workplaces go tobacco-free, I feel it benefits everyone, quite honestly, and it jumpstarts a lot of quits.
Yeah. Do you feel, what is the average age of the person trying to quit smoking? In Rutland, for example.
In Rutland, I would say it's probably about 50 years old right now. I'm seeing more younger people come in, like the 25 to 30 that are wanting to quit chew and e-cigarettes and such. But the people that are still using tobacco, the combustible cigarettes and such, that's more like the 50 to 65 range, the boomer range. And sadly enough, they're coming because they're having the health effects right now. They're feeling it, the shortness of breath. They've been recently diagnosed with COPD. They're having heart conditions, and that's what's driving my largest population to me.
I know, and that's what you want to avoid.
That is, and that's why I'm going to stress the need of prevention services here in Rutland to address tobacco, because it's these people, it's the youth that are starting to smoke. I believe it's 88 to 90% of adults that smoke started before they were 18 years old. And we do not have prevention services for tobacco in Rutland right now. So that is definitely an area that needs to be looked at,
Right.
and come together as a community to address.
Well, I mean, to me, it just makes perfect sense. I mean, you're talking absenteeism from work. I mean, you know, people will have a higher incidence of respiratory
Definitely,
illnesses,
definitely.
you know, for those who smoke.
Yeah.
And I mean, can certain health issues be reversed for people that stop smoking? I've heard kind of pros and cons about that. Or
I see the
I don't
benefits
know.
of quitting. And
Yeah.
I come from a unique place, because when the people are coming in and see me, I see them come in when they're not feeling well. And as we work through the process of it, their skin color starts improving, you know, they're looking healthier, they're breathing better. So one of the first things we see is that they start breathing better. There's less inflammation on the airways. They're not being continuously irritated by the smoking of cigarettes. Respiratory medications work a whole lot better when you're not smoking. Plus, you're needing them less. Rescue inhalers, you're needing them less because you're not re-irritating the airways every time you smoke a cigarette. I've seen some beautiful changes with people that have diabetes. While it's not reversed, you see the improvements that just overall affect quality of health.
how about their lung tissue? Does that heal itself, or?
No, the lungs are those organs that don't regenerate themselves. They're like a sponge. They're taking everything in. But the airways around the lung, or inside the lungs, they're not being irritated. They're not filling with mucus. You're not introducing all those chemicals to the lungs. So actually, you know, the airways, you're getting more air and you're getting better oxygenation. That improves your body's health, quite honestly.
I'm going to ask you an interesting question. With the legalization of marijuana,
Oh gosh.
and well, and again, it's a form of
That's
tobacco
smoking.
or
Well,
smoking. It's not really tobacco,
No, no.
but it's a form of smoking.
Yep.
What types of damage? I mean, aside from some of the obvious, you know, things that it can cause, can it damage your lungs?
Well, breathing any chemical that you shouldn't be breathing into your lungs, especially smoke, will cause damage. I mean, lung tissue is pretty delicate. So yeah, breathing any smoke in that you should not, well, you should not be breathing smoke into your lungs.
Right,
It's not
right,
natural.
right.
Will cause damage, yes.
Well, and the other thing I think that people are starting to realize more and more is folks are getting sick getting lung cancer that have never smoked. So that could be attributed to secondhand smoke, or it can be attributed to what, environmental factors.
Oh yes, I do a lot of asthma work, and environmental factors weigh heavily, yeah. Not only secondhand smoke, but thirdhand smoke too, which is what collects on surfaces. When you come back indoors from smoking, that collects to your hair, your clothing and such. And that is an irritant for people that have respiratory issues. When we went tobacco-free at Rutland Regional, that was one of our driving points right there, is the employees going out smoking, coming back in, bringing that to the patients. And you know, that's not
good. No. Well, it's interesting because I remember there was a time where you could go into grocery stores and there would be ashtrays.
Yeah, yeah. The smoking room at the hospital, people tell stories about.
And doctors smoking when they're interfacing with patients. I mean, that's just, but I'm so glad that all that has changed for the better, much for the better. But I think, you know, when you're trying to educate young people, for example, about the dangers of smoking, you know, and you said that there's really nothing out there right now, even on the school level?
We need more prevention services. We do. It's definitely something that needs to be out there to support the schools, to get the message out there. But people need to be aware that youth, they're not just tiny adults. You know, their brain is still developing up until they're 25 years old. And there's something with nicotine, which nicotine is an addictive drug. I don't think enough emphasis is put on that. But nicotine is what is addicting people and keeping them smoking. You know, they're not addicted to the smoke. It's the nicotine that's getting in their body. They breathe it in into their lungs, to their blood, to their brain within 7 to 8 seconds. And they start getting a feel-good feeling. So, yeah, something that gets in my body fast makes me feel good. The brain gets addicted to it after time and starts needing it. So with youth in that developing brain, they're smoking these cigarettes and they're becoming addicted quicker. They have more intense withdrawal symptoms. And I'll even say chew, e-cigarettes, and the juul added to it because these are all nicotine delivery devices. That nicotine in that youth brain, they are so susceptible to it that it's hooking them at a younger age. And withdrawal symptoms are quite nasty. I've worked with a number of youth that horrible migraines, you know, they're just not feeling well. So they revert back to the using. So the youth brain becomes addicted right away. Take away that nicotine and they're having horrible withdrawal symptoms. They're not feeling well. And that is why the majority of smokers started before they were 18 years old, because that brain is just wired different. And then you introduce that nicotine and it rewires the brain very quick, which puts them at greater risk for being a lifelong nicotine tobacco user.
Right.
But also mood disorders, psychological disorders are tied right into that as well.
Well, and let's kind of, I mean, let's steer the discussion more towards the vaping and the e-cigarettes. And I know that it seems to be becoming epidemic, vaping and in the juul that I know we're going to talk about shortly. Can you, you know, tell us a little bit about vaping and e-cigarettes and the differentiation between tobacco and vaping and e-cigarettes so people will kind of understand?
Okay, so I'm going to say the e-cigarette, the juul, they are nicotine delivery devices, just like the cigarette, just like chew, nicotine delivery devices. So the e-cigarette and the juul, the vaping, the juuling, are alternatives to the cigarette. It's another way people are getting the nicotine in. So cigarettes we call combustible because you're lighting the cigarette and then you're breathing all those burning chemicals down into your lungs. We know that's not good. So the e-cigarette and the vape are alternatives. They are not FDA-approved smoking cessation devices, and that's what a lot of people get confused with. So nicotine is still getting into people's bodies. Now, there's additives to the e-cigarettes and the juul that are connected to cancer causing. Some of the flavors out there are very detrimental to lung tissue. And then there's a number of other additives, the glycerol products and such, that we don't know that long-term effect, quite honestly. And the FDA has been very hesitant to say that they're safer than smoking cigarettes, but I can tell you people are not breathing in the smoke. What they're breathing in, we're not 100% sure.
Right.
And when people say vaping, in my, vaping is water vapor. This is not what's going on. It is more of an aerosol. So when I say aerosol, think like air fresheners, anything that puts those tiny particles into the air, and you're breathing that in. So the fact that they're calling it vaping is a little misleading because it is an aerosol. And breathing in those tiny, tiny particles go deeper into the lungs and are affecting the tinier parts of the lungs that are more delicate. So they're not safer in any way. They're going to still cause some kind of damage because we really shouldn't be breathing them into our delicate lungs, quite honestly. Right. So other concerns I have are that, it's that hand-mouth association. That's one of my hardest ones to work with people to get them to quit. And by using these products, and they're getting nicotine on demand. So that's difficult in that sense to take care of. But I think it's the perception, too, that if you smoke a cigarette, you're going to feel the burning. you're not going to smoke one cigarette right after another because there's something in your body that's saying stop, stop. You know, you'll start coughing, it'll hurt, the body's telling you stop. And with these other products, the e-cigarettes and the juul, which are very comparable in nicotine levels to that of cigarettes, that you're not getting that response where your body's saying stop, stop, stop. And that's another concern with youth, is that they're not seeing it as being as dangerous as it is to their body, because they're not getting that, this is not good, please stop.
Right.
There's not as big, like the smoke is not as big, especially when we talk about that juul product that has minimal vapor coming off, I wouldn't call it vapor, aerosol coming off, that there's less cues saying this is dangerous along the way. And those flavors are within the e-cigarettes and the juul are masking it that much more, that there's a disconnect from this is still a harmful product that I'm ingesting into my body.
And I know it's becoming very prevalent in high schools.
Yes.
It's easy to conceal.
It's very easy.
And
they're tiny.
Right. It looks like you said a flash drive.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen one, but I think I've seen photos of them.
Yeah, and they're fairly small devices, quite honestly, and I've seen, like at sports and stuff, people just passing it around to each other and such. And you get someone that really doesn't know what it is, they take a hit off it, it's not going to have that same negative that smoking a cigarette. I remember my first cigarette, I gagged heavily, you know. They're not getting that same, so it's not that, you know, hey, stop, this isn't good for me. And that's the need for us to get that education out there, so these kids understand prior to getting hooked and using it frequently that this is just an alternative to cigarettes. You're still getting all the nasty stuff into your lungs.
So where are they purchasing this online? Are they purchasing it through retail establishment?
Yeah, gas stations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to be 21, right? Because it is a tobacco product?
I believe 18, 21, I'm not quite sure. And I know online that's sometimes different, but people are getting them from each other. And that's what we're seeing with the teens too. And I've heard anecdotally that, you know, they're hitting them in their lockers, they're going to the bathrooms. Other schools across the country actually have people going in to check and make sure that they're not using them in the bathrooms. Yeah. Because it's not bringing such attention as the plume of smoke or the smell. Right. You're not getting that, and I think there's a disconnect right there.
But do they have any evidence, you know, to support that it is a bad thing?
Oh yes,
they do.
Yes, there's plenty of information out there. The FDA is saying, while, you know, safer than the combustible cigarettes, you know, this is still nicotine. Nicotine does have health consequences. Right. These other additives are not good for you as well. Surgeon General has made comments on it, especially regarding youth using them as well.
Well, I'm wondering too, if you look at the statistics, because of the availability of a product like juul, you think there's going to be a surge in more young people smoking?
That's my fear, is this is the next generation of people addicted to nicotine, quite honestly.
I mean, you're a parent, so what would you suggest to schools in how to try to combat this or how to deal with this problem?
Getting the education out there so people know what is going on.
Right.
And really getting good support in place for the kids that have already become addicted to the e-cigarettes or cigarettes. Educating parents, because I think that's one of those pieces that parents don't understand themselves, as I've been approached by many of them, that these are nicotine devices altogether.
Right.
A lot of them will be like, oh, no, there's no nicotine in them. And I'll have to bring out the information to say, yeah, actually there is, and it's as much as a pack of cigarettes.
Right.
And that's the scary thing about this juul product, is that it has as much nicotine as a pack of cigarettes. And you're not getting that body response saying, no, this is not good, stop now. And people are actually taking in more nicotine than they would be.
Because they're using it more often.
Yes, because they're not understanding how much nicotine they're getting.
Got it.
I regularly take apart e-cigarettes with people. They'll come in and they'll be like, no, I'm not getting any nicotine at all. And we'll take it apart together. And I'm like, you see, that says 21 milligrams. And they're like, well, what's that mean? That's as much in one pack of cigarettes, quite honestly. And with e-cigarettes, from brand to brand, it varies. So it is so hard to stay on top of it, of every product. And unless you know what you're looking for to take it apart,
Right.
a lot of people are very misled still. Coming to me, it is only water vapor. No, it's not. And that's a re-education piece there too.
Well, I'm thinking too, I mean, aside from the health risks, the cost. I mean, what is a pack of cigarettes going for these days?
Up to $10 in Rutland area, yeah.
Right. And what would be the cost of a juul?
Initially, you know, I'm not 100% sure, quite honestly, because I've looked at various places, and you know, from place to place it will vary. But it's an initial investment for the whole kit. The starter kit is what they call it, and then you're going back and you're purchasing the pods. But that eventually gets expensive too, and you know, it is an expensive habit to have. Yeah, addiction.
Well, I guess, you know, and just kind of recapping what we talked about, I mean, the most important thing is prevention.
I believe so. Prevention and education, getting it out there so people understand, you know, these are nicotine delivery devices.
Right. And these young people need to be educated as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You know, about the dangers of this. I just remember some of this being integrated into health curriculums, but I'm not sure if that's still happening. I have no idea.
I've had little contact in regard with the health teachers themselves to find out within the curriculum where it is. Trying to educate myself as much as possible that I know that I can pass that information on. And I know the Department of Health is working on a presentation right now that we can take out to the schools to educate the staff and parents in regards to this.
Well, those are all things that obviously are important and need to be done. And I know you're doing your part in trying to educate the public, you know, around the dangers of smoking.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to wrap up, and I thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure, and it was certainly educational.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you for joining us today. Please continue to watch Window on Wellness each week on Peg TV Channel 15 and also on demand at pegtv.com.